Hey everybody, John Skiba here. I am a bankruptcy attorney in the state of Arizona, and I'm also the founder of the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. And today I'm going to share with you 4 reasons the bankruptcy may be a very bad idea for your situation. But if this is your first time here at my YouTube channel, please go ahead and click subscribe, check on that bell. That way you'll be notified each week when I put out new videos that'll help you deal with your serious debt problem. All right, let's talk about bankruptcy. I'm recording this at a time when inflation is sky high. We're starting to see the beginnings of what could be a recession. Unemployment, all those types of things are kind of coming into play, and I know that people are looking at their options on how to deal with debt problems. Bankruptcy is obviously one of those. I meet with a lot of people, a lot more people even recently, that are considering bankruptcy as an option to get rid of their debt problem. However, there are certain situations where filing for bankruptcy can be really bad. It can actually make it more trouble than it's worth. And so I want to talk about 4 of those situations and maybe some ways that you can work around that if it is that you need to file bankruptcy. The first one is it might be a bad idea to file bankruptcy if you have unprotected assets. And what I mean by that, in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the idea behind it is it's going to get rid of all of your credit card debt, medical bills, all of that's going to be discharged or eliminated by the bankruptcy court. The trade-off is they're going to look to see if you have any assets that can be sold or liquidated, and then the money distributed to your creditors. Now, most things are protected. There's all these exemption laws, like the homestead exemption most people are familiar with, that protects equity in your home, equity in your cars, household goods, retirement accounts, wedding rings. Arizona even has an exemption for firearms. I mean, there's a lot of different exemptions that can protect your stuff. Now, there are dollar limits associated with that. For example, in Arizona, the homestead exemption protects up to $250,000 of equity in your home, not just value. So if you have more than that, it could be an issue in a Chapter 7 case. And so if you have non-exempt assets, and the most common ones I see are things like boats, ATVs, RVs, where there's, they're owned outright or there's a lot of equity there, the court can seize that asset, they'll sell it at auction, and then distribute the money to your creditors. So if you have a lot of non-exempt assets or a large asset that there's just there's nothing that can be done with it as far as legally, it's something to talk to your bankruptcy attorney about, because often there are solutions to it, but if there's assets there, it may make bankruptcy, at least Chapter 7 bankruptcy, not a good option. The second thing is something we call fraudulent transfers. Now, this sounds a lot worse than it usually is because of the word fraud that's in there. Usually these are transfers, even though the intent is innocent, the court deems them fraudulent in that you transferred an asset out of your name in the 2 years prior to filing bankruptcy, and you essentially didn't get anything in return for it. The idea behind this law is they don't want you just getting rid of all of your assets or transferring your extra car to your brother or somebody like that while you go through bankruptcy and then bring them all back into your name once you get done. That's obviously not ethical. That's not fair to your creditors for you to be able to do that. And so they want to stop people from doing these transfers prior to the filing of bankruptcy. And again, the look back period is 2 years, so they're going to look back quite a ways to see what kind of transfers happened. The situation I see it almost routinely is families where they have teenage drivers who the teenager went out during the summer, had a summer job, bought a relatively inexpensive car. Because minors can't hold property in their name, the car is in mom and dad's name. The kid turns 18, and then the parents sign the title over to their son or daughter so that they have ownership of the vehicle, and they don't receive anything in return, obviously because the kid's the one who paid for it. Or even a situation where mom and dad paid for the car, and then when the kid turns 18, they transfer title to the son or daughter that's driving the vehicle. That can cause an issue, even in situations like that are perfectly innocent and perfectly understandable. If an asset was transferred and there was nothing received in return, the court can technically go and get that asset, bring it back in, sell it, and give the money to your creditors. Now, if you do transfer the asset and it's an actual sale, people are selling things on Craigslist, or they just put their vehicle up for sale, or they trade it in, that's not a problem. It's where there's a transfer of assets, but you don't get anything back. Again, this is a situation that often there are solutions to it. Highly, highly recommend you talk to a bankruptcy attorney. to learn the specifics of your situation, and they can provide you some possible remedies to that. The third one is what we call preferential payments. Preferential payments arise when you prefer one creditor over the others, particularly when you're preferring a family member or a close friend. The bankruptcy code refers to these people as insiders. And so if you owe money to a family member, a friend, or even maybe a business associate, if you owe money to them, they loaned you money, and then you're making payments to them, the court can go back and collect all those payments that you made in the last 12 months prior to filing of your bankruptcy. They'll go get that money and then make a distribution to your creditors evenly or pro rata. The idea behind it is that you shouldn't be able to prefer one creditor over all the others. And so what I often will see is people, they'll call in or they'll do a consultation here at my office, and they will say, hey, I owe my mom and dad $5,000. I just got this big tax refund. I'm going to go ahead and pay them off, and then let's file bankruptcy because I don't want them to have to go through that process. Don't do that. That could cause problems. And what they'll do is they'll actually go get that money from your mom and dad. The way that they do it is the U.S. trustee can actually sue your mom and dad to have that turned over, and Thanksgiving will be awkward forevermore. And so the best is, if you're thinking of bankruptcy, if you're in that process right now thinking, hey, I may need to file it, is to keep status quo. Just keep things as they are. Talk to a bankruptcy attorney, learn what's going to be a problem, what's not, and if there are things that are a problem, there's often things that can be done, including waiting maybe a little bit of time, and other solutions so that you can still look at the bankruptcy option and get the debt relief that you need. Now, the fourth category is a much more problematic issue, and that is if you have actual debts that were incurred through fraud. Now, I can tell you this, I almost never see this, literally almost never see it. It's very rare that I see someone who wants to file for bankruptcy where debts were incurred through intentional fraud. But if you find yourself in that situation, or at least if you know that the creditor may assert that you incurred the debt through fraud, what happens is if you file for bankruptcy, the creditor can come in and actually file a mini lawsuit against you. It's called an adversary proceeding, and they can get the court to issue an order that makes it so their debt doesn't go away. Not only is that stressful, it's time consuming, and it can be expensive. Usually adversary proceedings are not included in the flat fee that most bankruptcy attorneys charge when you do a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So those are the main four areas. If you have any of those, it's important to talk to your bankruptcy attorney about those in detail. Make sure you disclose those. Like I said, often there are solutions to be able to get around it so that you can still file a bankruptcy case. Sometimes it requires filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy instead of a Chapter 7. That is a much longer process, but at the end of the day, it'll give you a lot of debt relief and bring some structure to that. If you're considering bankruptcy and you want to talk about any of those four areas or others, I am a licensed attorney in the state of Arizona. I offer free consultations for my bankruptcy clients where we can sit down and decide if bankruptcy is a good option for you. My contact information is below this video. Thanks for watching today.